Now let's try to go for the if else statement. So as you can see here, I have made a program where you have an integer, and the program asks the user to input a number, and if the number that was provided is uh, even, so as you can see here, x modulo 2 is equal to 0, then we know for sure that the number is even. So everything inside of the print statement will print number is even. And if the answer, if you provide a odd number, so for instance you say 5 modulo 2, obviously the answer would be 1. Is 1 equal to 0? Obviously not. So that means we could say that the number is odd. So let's try to run this program to see what's going to happen. So let's say I want to put the number, let's give it an even number, 2. I see the program is lagging again, so let's just wait. There. So it says here the number is even. Program terminated. So since the program's asking me to put a number and I put 2, it goes through the conditional statement here. 2 modulo 2, since 2 modulo 2 is 0 equal to 0? Yes. Therefore, the number is even. And then it goes through the rest of the program. You notice that everything inside of the else statement ends up to be skipped, and that's the reason why that's basically the same thing what I said in the diagram. If the if statement ends up to be true, then everything else will be discarded, or this how do you say it, disregarded. Yeah, there you go. So let's see what happens if I give a odd number. So let's say I would give the number 11, and let's just wait for the program to detect the number 11 before we press enter. There you go. And then let's press enter now. And then as you can see here, it says here number is odd and the program is 2. So once the user input 11 and it goes through the first if statement here, it says here na 11 modulo 2. Since 11 modulo 2 is equal to 1, is 1 equal to 0? The answer is false. Therefore, everything in the if statement is skipped, go through the else statement, and then print out number is odd. Once you already print out everything in this every statement inside of the else statement, so that's basically it for the if else statement. Let's go through the if else if and else statement. So as you can see here, I ask the program will ask 2 numbers again from the user. So the first number will be to x, and then the second number will be to y, and then it will try to evaluate is if x is greater than y, or is x less than y, or is x equal to y. So let's try to run this program to see what happens. So let's say x is 1. Let's just wait for the program. There you go. And then the second number is 2. And as you can, x is less than y. Why is that? Let's check the program, or let's check the code rather. As you can see here, we already asked the user to input the 2 numbers, and then it goes through the if statement here. So since x is 1 and y is 2, let's try to read out the code. Is 1 greater than 2? Obviously false. So let's try to check the else if statement here. Is 1 less than 2? Definitely. So you print out everything inside of the else if statement. In this case, I only have one statement inside of the brackets that says x is less than y. Once the program prints out this statement, it runs through the rest of the program here, skipping the else in the case. So it just says here printf the program terminated, and then end the program. So similarly to the code to the program here, since we input 1 2, it only prints out x is less than y, then program terminated, and ends the program. So let's try to see what happens if we put x, the same value as x and y, as we obviously know that if we put a value of x that is greater than y, it will just print out greater than y. It's ready. We already provided examples in the previous code, in the previous program in the if else statement. So let's just go through the equal sign. So let's say that the number is 14. So let's just put 14 here and wait for the program to render 14 before we proceed with the rest of the program. Okay, so it says 14, then we put 14 again. So it now says here 14, 14, and it will go through the first statement here. So is 14 greater than 14? No. Check the next expression. Is 14 less than 14? Obviously not. Skip to the else statement. And since we already gone through all of the expressions and none of them satisfies the expression or the condition, now print everything in else. And we already assume that if a number is not less than or equal, less than or greater than the other number, then we must know for sure that it's equal. So the else statement has one statement inside of the curly brackets that says x is equal to y, and then print out the rest of the program. And that is basically what happened in our program itself. Now let's go on with the last example, which is the switch statement. So as you can see here, the program asks the user to input an integer or a number, and then it will run through the switch statement. So as you can see here, unlike the if statement wherein you evaluate with the operators and all in the if statements, this one only demands the variable itself in your expression. The reason why we only put the variable in the expression here in the parentheses is because it will run through each of the cases inside of the switch statements. So as you can see here, let's try to run this program to see the logic behind the switch statement. So let's say the number that I want to put is 4. And let's just wait for the program once again in order to render the number 4 before we press enter. There you go. We press enter and it says here 4, program terminated. What does that mean? How does that happen? Let's check it out. So we have an integer variable here that is labeled x, and then we ask the user to input the number. So we say 4. Now we're going to go through the switch statement, and the variable that we want to evaluate is x. So it will run through each of the cases. So we have a case here. Case is 1. So what does 1 mean? It will try to compare x here with the case with the label 1. So is 4 the value of x equal to 1? No. So we don't have to run this case. We don't have to run inside of this case anymore. Let's check the next case. So the next case says 2. So is 4 equal to 2? I don't think so. So everything inside of that case will break. So on and so forth, because case number 3 is 4 equal to 3. Obviously not. Let's go to 4. 4 is the value of x, which is 4, equal to the case of 4? Yes. Since 4 is equal to 4, print out the number 4 here and then break the statements. And then as you can see, it only prints out the number 4. I mean the number 4 in alphabet format, and then the program terminates. So let's see what happens if I remove the break statement here, as I warned you guys a while ago during the concept discussion. So let's try to compile and run again, and then let's try to input 4, and let's just wait again for the program to run. There you go. Let's press enter. And as you can see here, it prints out another line that says higher than 4 or less than 1. Why is that? When you have the break statement here, it does not allow the rest of the conditions, the statements inside of the expression to run. So in the case of this case number 4, since we forgot to put the break statements, it goes through now the default case, and then since there is no need to evaluate the default case, because we already assume that if there are no cases that matches with our expression, then it will run the default case. But since we forgot to put the break statements, it jumps to the next case, which is the default, and then run its program here, higher than 4 or less than 1, and then the program terminated. But if you're going to ask me what happens if there are no break statements in all of them, so let's try to find out what happens. Well, let's just end the program here. Let's try to remove this right now. And then let's try to run this program once again. And then let's just try to put the number 1. So let's input 1 and then wait for the program to render the 1 before we proceed. There we go. Let's enter. As you can see here, once this case proves that 1 is equal to 1 in this case, then it print out 1. And since we forgot to put break statements, it runs through the rest of the statements. Oh yeah, I do need to warn you that once it jumps to the next case, it does not need to evaluate anymore. For instance, since 1 is not equal to 2, obviously expected this should not run. However, it does not go through the evaluation anymore once a case has been evaluated and it proves to be true. So since 1 is equal to 1, it proves to be true. There's no need to evaluate the rest of the case. However, since we forgot to put the break statements, it runs through each of the statements until we reach the end of the switch statement and then run through the rest of the program. So you could see here, it prints out 1, 2, 3, 4, higher than 4 or less than 1, then program terminated. And this is an error in our part if you forgot to put the break statement. So always keep in mind to put break statements in your switch as necessary as possible, depending on the program that you're trying to make. So let's try to put back again the break statements because we don't want any more errors. So let's just give one last condition here. So let's try to put 5 since that does not match any of the cases that we have provided. So we wait for the program to render out 5. Very much. Then we press enter. And as you can see here, since 5 does not meet any of the cases that we have provided, it will just jump right to the default statement here and just prints out higher than 4 or less than 1. And the program terminates. So that's basically it for the basics of conditional statements. Obviously, there are other conditional statements format like nested if else, or even you could have an if statement and then a switch inside, but that is for you to discover and learn on your own. So we're done with our discussion with the basics on conditional statements. I am Nilo once again, and thank you for listening through this crash course. Thank you, everyone.